On April 16, 2007, Lisa Hamp attended her computer science class at Virginia Tech University. There was things on the board that she could not understand. It was much like ours. A normal morning, a normal day, with normal teachings. However, this soon changed when Lisa heard a noise outside in the hallway. She went to go investigate and soon found the barrel of a gun being pointed at her and firing at her. She held the door closed then as the shooter tried to break into their room. Though she and her classroom survived, 30 people lost their lives that day in what would be known as the Virginia Tech Massacre. This is Virginia Tech here. Many students have experienced something along the lines of what Lisa Hamp did. They go to learn something, and yet they come home never the same, or they don't come home at all. Despite there being many claims that shooters do not do anything to help stop mass shootings, there is much evidence to the contrary. As a result of this, qualified and responsible students and staff should be able to carry firearms in colleges and universities. Let's look at the evidence. Of the 71 mass shootings documented in the Mass Public Shooting Database, which is provided by the United States Concealed Carry Association, the majority of them occurred in gun-free zones. This is a sign of what a typical gun-free zone would show. What is a gun-free zone? A gun-free zone is, as it sounds, it's a place that prohibits the carrying and storage of firearms on that specific location. Now, also, a majority of the mass shootings that have been the worst in terms of fatality have occurred in gun-free zones. I'll list a few of the top 10. Virginia Tech, Pulse nightclub in Orlando, Sandy Hook Elementary, and the shooting at Luby's Diner in Texas are all examples where there were heavy casualties and fatalities, and they were gun-free zones. Those statistics were provided by Statista for the top 10. What can be deducted from this? But that mass shooters do not go places where people are armed, and the reason is obvious. Mass shooters don't want to be provoked. They don't want to be opposed in what they're trying to do. They want to cause as much harm and wreak as much havoc as possible without being fired upon as people try to defend themselves. Also, it is proven that good guys with guns indeed do stop bad guys with guns. Though it's not given as much news coverage, it is clear there is a plethora of situations where an armed citizen has stopped a shooter from either committing a mass shooting altogether or from hurting more people. I'll give two situations. On the 31st of December 2019, Jack Wilson shot and stopped a shooter who opened fire in a church in White Settlement, Texas. Earlier that year, on August 9th, potential shooter Dmitry Andreychenko walked into a Walmart in Springfield, Missouri. He was donning body armor, carrying a rifle, and he was stocked with ammunition. But however, he was soon held at gunpoint by an off-duty firefighter until law enforcement arrived, and the potential shooter was detained. These are just a few situations, but there are a plethora more where the shooters stop things from happening. Now, a rebuttal may come that school resource officers are an adequate defense against shooters for colleges and universities, and as a result of that, students and faculty should not be armed. However, this is not true in that, and I respect law enforcement, I want to make this very clear, but they are not adequate in the defense of schools and universities. One, for their size. Two, for the limited number of officers, again, for such a large size. Three, in the event that those few officers, the defenders of the school, are hurt, they then cannot deal with the shooter. So then the shooter is free to do at that point whatever he wants. But this is not the main reason. The main reason the main reason I address here is because they are human just like we are. School resource officers are human behind the badge, behind the service weapon. They react, therefore, in human ways. They can go into shock. They can be overcome with fear. This is most notably shown in the Stoneman Douglas shooting in February 14, 2018, where Nicholas Cruz opened fire into classrooms in Building 12 of the Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School. The school resource officer, Scott Peterson, he didn't go in and address the shooter. Rather, because he was afraid, he stood outside and didn't go in. He was the first responder, and yet, because of his fear, 17 lives were lost that day, when fewer or none could have been lost. As a result of that, the solution and best guard to stop college and university shootings is to allow students and staff to be armed. There are many difficulties with this topic. Many emotions reasonably arise from this. However, it all comes down to this question. Do human beings have the right, wherever they are and in whatever situation they are put into, have the right to defend themselves against those who are trying to hurt them or take their life? Thank you for your time.